This is a podcast or something like that.
Oh, hey, how's it going? Welcome to the podcast, episode 92. It's a public episode, so you're probably from the public. Maybe you've never watched the podcast before. Welcome. If you've watched it before, welcome back. We're going to do another episode today. The podcast is where I talk about a bunch of things, whatever I sort of feel like. It's called the Verbal Journal because it's just like, I just go. I just let it rock. First things first, I am sitting in a chair today. And if you're longtime fans of the podcast, or if you've been watching the last month, there's been a whole arc. On the last public episode, you public people may have noticed I was standing. I tried to not mention it. I don't think I mentioned it at all. I tried to not make any sort of thing about it. I've been told I make too much of a big deal about things. And so I didn't. But I was standing. And so you might not have picked up on that, but I was standing. And today I'm sitting again. And it's not so simple. It's not like I can go from one to the other. It's been a long process, as channel supporters on Patreon members, YouTube members know. First, I was lying down. I mean, after standing, because the furniture was taken away here at the podcast studios, I was then forced to lie down. Even more furniture was taken away. There was a whole thing. Some furniture was dangled in front of me. I've been told even today that there's a chance I might have to get up from the chair just on short notice. And I was like, oh my gosh. I can't work like this, but I don't have another job besides, doing the therapy thing. This is my only, the podcast. You might look at some of the episodes and think there's no way you support yourself from that, but I make thousands of dollars. You look at the last public episode has 300 views, but I get paid thousands of dollars just from those 300 views. It's a very complicated process. The royalty system, I think the podcast studios, VJP Inc. Is sort of this. So let me talk about why I'm dressed like this. And they're sort of getting ripped off, is what I was going to say. Like this podcast studios, I haven't talked about this before. I've sort of complained about the employment process. The thing I didn't mention about being an employee here at Verbal Journal Podcast Productions Incorporated is I get paid thousands of dollars an episode. There's no health insurance. But they move around the furniture, they take around the furniture, but I do get paid thousands of dollars. I don't know where the money comes from. I'm not supposed to talk about that. So point is, I don't complain too much. If I get a text, or any sort of message and it says get up out of the chair because, I'll just do it. You know what I mean? Because I get paid this dark money or regular money. How dark does money have to be before it is dark money? Anyways, welcome to the public episode 92. I have actually done 92, or will have done 92 episodes by the time you're seeing this. Speaking of the episodes, let's get right into the introduction a little bit deeper. Last episode, I need to apologize apparently for calling it an extravaganza. Apparently we were getting messages that it wasn't technically an extravaganza. Which I don't really understand because the whole point is it's a main section extravaganza. So we have main section, main section, main section. We have all these main sections, and there's a musical interlude in there too. So that was the sort of thing. I don't know. People were saying that's not an extravaganza. I don't really get that though. In my understanding, that qualifies as an extravaganza. They're like, no, it has to be a lot of different things for it to be an extravaganza. And I'm like, then what was what I did? And they're like, well, that was just sort of a, fixation. And I'm like, well, what? It was an extravaganza. I did a bunch of different main sections. You can go through, see all these main sections. Yeah. So why? Okay. So what's the problem? You know what I mean? But anyway, I don't need to worry about it. It doesn't matter. I just needed to, I was told contractually I had to apologize for that. No one said I had to be sincere about it. But that was a last minute. I mean, the title thing is a last minute change. That's just something that's something I have the right to do that. I have the right. I also have the obligation. They make me title the episode. So If you're going to make me title the episodes and I choose to call something an extravaganza, it's I'll tell you why it hurts my feelings. Because it's not just like, oh, you used the wrong word. It's not that simple. It feels deeper than that. You know what I mean? Like they think less of me that I don't know what an extravaganza is. You know? I personally I don't think I've ever seen anyone use the word. I'm trying to think of one time I've ever seen anyone. I feel like it would have probably been at an event where there's a lot going on. But those many things going on could all be like, say there was an event that was like 10 or 15 different Ferris wheels. Okay? If you don't know what a Ferris wheel is, I don't know what to tell you. That would still be an extravaganza. You would call that a Ferris wheel extravaganza. So it's like, yeah, okay, you could say I was fixated on main sections. That's why it's called a main section extravaganza. So, half-hearted apology about that. Okay, now so oftentimes people are confused. Why is the intro often about the previous episode? It helps us, I think, come into the new episode by processing the old. So, and I will talk about why I'm dressed this way. It's very interesting and exciting. Obviously, if you've been listening, you might have a good guess. Compliment sandwich. I have a compliment sandwich for the new, sort of new, should be kind of integrated by now, but sort of new editor, Monica, who did a great job on the intro last time. So that's the good part of the compliment sandwich, is that you did a great job on the intro. Should I show that? Let's just show off. Okay. So we have a lot of staff here. We have an editor. We have some writers. We have a fashion person. So that's why I'm dressed the way I am. I'll just tell you now. The fashion person, this is week 2. Apparently last week was good. I thought I looked kind of bad, honestly, but the fashion person goes, no, everyone liked it. I'm like, I didn't see anyone say anything about it in any regard. And he was like, no, it was really good. I'm like, okay. Anyways, not talking about the fashion person, talking about the editor right now, who, check this out. I'm not going to play the audio. Don't want to get copyright claimed. So, I should play the audio, actually. It's kind of a big part of it, So that was great. That's great. And I think this is great, and the editor is doing a great job. You saw that cut. There's a lot of good stuff going on. So that's the good part of the compliment sandwich. The bad part of the compliment sandwich is I really think I said to edit this out, because I was trying to do this math for a long time, and it was like several minutes, and I was trying to figure out how to do the math. And I definitely said edit that out, right? Like, do you remember that? Because I definitely remember that.
0.7%. It out. So it's less. I was right that it's less than 1%. Monica, can you edit out? And I don't want another bread situation where you leave that in.
So we did have another bread situation, because if you see, this is way too long of me just doing
less
that.
Than 1%. Yeah, so it's well under 1%.
Yeah, and then I had to find out exactly how much it was. It was like 0.7. We were at that moment, we were quantifying how much of the previous episode, the previous episode, was the main section, how much of it, it was only like a 24-second main section and a 56-minute video. So it was about like 0.7 seconds of 0.7% of the video was the main section. So why do we always end up getting into the weeds of numbers on this podcast? Donna's the producer. I don't even know what their title is, honestly. I try to not pay attention to Donna. Sue me. 13 views. I got $4,000 for this previous episode. 13 views. I get $4,000 for the private episodes. Each episode. How do you think I afforded this hat? Can I talk about the fashion yet? I'm absolutely itching to talk about it. Anyways, the editor, do I have another good part of the sandwich, or you're going to ask me that right now? Can it not be a one? Is it not a sandwich if it has one thing and then one thing? It's a panini. Imagine, or a taco. Imagine there's just one layer of good and then there's one layer of bad. And why is there bad in a taco? I don't know. It really doesn't make sense. It should be called an insult. Yeah, it should be called, instead of a compliment sandwich, it should be called an insult jelly donut or an insult. Yeah, because it's more about what's on the inside rather than the compliment. It's almost a compliment sandwich to call it a compliment sandwich when what it really is about the insult. So that's kind of false advertising. Anyways, I'm trying to just ignore it, but I was really upset when I saw this because I don't get to edit the episode. I get to do everything else but edit the episode. Check this out.
You know what I mean? And 1% is rounding up by a lot. It's probably...
Yeah, and I knew that. And why didn't we just edit out the next 3 minutes where I was going...
So, 0.4 goes in...
Yeah, we didn't need that. Okay, it doesn't matter. We don't need this. Okay. Point is, there's no third positive thing. But third positive thing is good job in the intro. Same thing as the first positive thing, because that's all I have. Please keep doing the intro as well, because it is literally the only way we're keeping you around here, and I'm just speculating, but that's what I think. Okay, next, this is just a fun little segment. I wanted to look at The Onion. The Onion's been in the news lately because The Onion tried to buy InfoWars. I believe they didn't win. I don't know. I don't follow up on every story. We get a lot of people like, hey, you talk about a lot of things on the podcast. Never follow up on them. People will be like, what the? And they do that over email as well, which, by the way, write into verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. We will be reviewing the mailbag later. That is a whole long segment that usually takes up the majority of the podcast because of how many people write in. Point is, The Onion, I don't think they purchased InfoWars. I didn't follow up. I don't think they succeeded with that. We did mention this, but it didn't work, I don't think. Anyways, I just wanted to talk about The Onion because I made a video about The Onion on the main channel. Should I pull that up? And that's kind of something, I like to follow up on things when I cover them, generally. That's just something I find very important. So, let me pull that up really quick. So yeah, because I did a thing about The Onion, I wanted to, and then, so I wanted to follow up and just say, and I think I mentioned this in the video, because The Onion's been bad for a while.
Hey, what's up?
Okay. So this is, so The Onion's been kind of bad for a while, and I'm not going to go into all the details. This is on the main channel. Oh my God, I hung that painting for that. That's hilarious. It's just still not finished painting, and it certainly wasn't finished then. So it wasn't even close. So, this is a video where I talk about The Onion and their hilarious articles about mental health. They have really funny articles, and they have a lot of good articles, but I know The Onion really well. I've gone through so much of their archives. Oh my God, I went into research. Actual problem, a nice change of pace for anxious man. Yeah, that's funny. Like, that's hilarious. And it's from 2015. They got bought by some big company after that, I believe. It might have even been in late 2015 or 2016. I don't remember. You could look it up, you know what I mean? But it's probably happened multiple times. It was like Univision or Uni something. It was like a big company. And they're bad. But the thing is, they still have gold every now and then. But they are definitely worse. And I just wanted to go over it because I thought it was kind of interesting, honestly, just how they've gotten worse. So let's just look. Large playful sheepdog knocks over Houston skyline. Like, what? Like, comedically, that does not work. What is the premise that is referencing? The harvest, shrieks forgetful Amish guy. Okay, that's funnier. But it's like really random. And when I used to look at The Onion, I might have mentioned this in my video about them, but like, when I used to look at them, I realized that I was, I have an analytical mind. I'm like, there's two types of Onion articles. Ones that are funny because, there's two types of funny Onion articles. Ones that are funny because they are referencing a thing that is funny, And then the other that is funny because it's the idea that a newspaper would be reporting on it. It would be funny. But there's probably other types of funny. Those were just the two that I saw. Anyways, these sort of both fall into the first category where the thing itself is supposed to be funny. But in this case, the thing itself is not funny because I have no frame of reference for it. I feel like it makes no sense. This is funny because the frame of reference makes sense, but the frame of reference is so random that I think that's why you need it to be also funny because it's in a newspaper, because that sort of is the frame of reference. I mean, The Onion started as an actual printed newspaper. I read printed versions of it. Like it was printed, and it stopped being printed a while ago, but it doesn't need to be printed. But the point is, like, it was a thing that I think it was at some college or something they did it. Like, it was like a real publication, and so it had a context, it had a community, it had like a reason to exist. Now it's just pure like ad revenue. It's just a website. I mean, it's like, journalism dying even affects satire journalism. Ballsy retirement home has interracial couple right on front of brochure. Okay. Sort of funny. Kind of just like, I feel like that joke's been like made before. Like, okay, I guess that's funny. NFL planning small intimate Super Bowl with friends and family. Okay, maybe I'm just in a bad mood. I mean, like, that's funny in theory, but it doesn't really, it's just too random. And a message of hope from global tetrahedron. So this is where we start getting into interesting political territory. Because if you analyze the politics of the sort of corporate onion that now exists, and I'm sure, I'm just speculating, but I think if you found quotes from the original Onion people, I am guessing they would agree with me. I'm totally speculating, but I'm just trying to say I'm not the only person to be like, the Onion's come a far way, I'm sure. Like this political, and at some point I think they were like, and there's stuff about Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. It's like, they're not really radical about things, but they like here they're like making fun of fascism in a sense, right? Like they're saying like, like we're sinking into global fascism, but like we got to find humor in it. Like, and like it doesn't ring true in the same way. Like this is just like kind of forced. Like it just doesn't ring true. Is this guy still writing comics? These are all so random. KitchenAid unveils new culinary mech suit. That's probably the funniest one so far. Introverted cowboy struggling to round a boss. That's just funny because of the photo. That's really funny. Emerging filmmaker Malia Obama changes surname to Scorsese. That's kind of funny. Sweden gives man 6 months paternity leave for busting a huge load. So I did see this one on their website the other day when I planned this segment, and that one is the funniest one by far, for sure. Because the frame of reference, it makes sense that it would be reported in a newspaper in a satire way, because it's about like paternity leave. It's about like it sounds like a news article, but then it's misdirection because obviously. The situation itself is silly and the way it takes place. Okay, let me. Was I supposed to talk about how I'm dressed more? Anyways, the point is, I just had I have a fashion person. I don't know what I was supposed to say. I was kind of excited to talk about it, but then I was like, what do I even say? Point is, I obviously look good. I'm obviously upping my game fashion wise. Last week, was the first week I had instruction by my personal fashion coach here at the podcast studios, and I think it showed. And this week, I'm obviously upping my game even more. Apparently, this is a thing. They say the boating hat is coming back into style. The boating hat with the tie is a big thing that people are doing. Apparently, young people. And then this sort of like button down. They say a semi-formal button down under a very formal tie with a less than formal boating hat. I will admit, but. It's sort of a dialectic. And then this is specifically from my fashion person as well. He said that I should wear it on this side because apparently because I'm straight. Apparently this side is the gay side. So, and he's gay. So he didn't mean that in an offensive way, but apparently there's a gay side to wear your rainbow I don't know what I don't even know what you call this. You know what I mean? So I don't even know what you call this because yeah. But so I just wanted to express myself. It's actually kind of itchy, and to be realistic here, I don't know if I can wear it the whole episode, but apparently it ties the whole thing together. What? I'm doing the episode. He's trying to talk to me. No, just because I talk about you on the episode. It's fine. I have the cuff is fine. No, it's how you said I should wear it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, oh, I should partially cover it up to kind of make people look for it was apparently the thing. I don't know. You think I shouldn't have said the gay thing? Okay. Apparently that was a private comment to me. I'm not supposed to repeat everything my fashion person says to me. Everything is fair game. If you say it to me in the podcast studios, which I live here also, we all live here. It's sort of, there's like a whole dormitory system. There's hundreds of people who work on this podcast. Sometimes I wonder, because I don't even know all of them. You know what I mean? Like, what are they doing? But okay, so yeah, interesting. Okay, and anyways, that's that. So next we'll do we're skipping the musical interlude. There's been a lot of complaining about that, about the musical interlude. But we will go into the chess update. So World Championship update. Ding Liren, this guy who I wanted to win, did end up losing the World Championship. He lost game 14 to Gukesh. And so it was sad. Gukesh won, but he wanted it more and he deserved it. And Ding played some great games. We're gonna look at game 12 really quick, where Ding crushed, but he didn't want it as much, and it was clear. I mean, at the end of the day, he just blundered at the end of the last game, and he lost it. But I love Ding. He's an awesome guy. I mean, Gukesh seems cool too. I just think Ding. I just love his personality. He's so shy and cool. But let's look at this game where Ding crushed. So Ding lost the game before, and so he was down 1 point with like 3 games left, 12, 13, 14. So he had 3 games left. He had to even the score and then win if he wanted to win, or win in tie breaks. So this is game 12, and he just crushed. So this is an opening he's been doing. He was offering a pawn, but it's not taken because they don't want to go for that. And just look at how white gets such a dominant position here. And this is a critical moment here. Not there. Right coming up where white pushes a pawn very soon. So that's a huge moment. And white's taking up more space. And then black, this is the best move for black, but it's actually not that great because the knight redirects and will find a very nice home on f4 in a couple moves. And meanwhile, white is getting massive amounts of space. So if you look at this 1.4 over here, this indicates the score, essentially, in a computer evaluation, meaning white is technically winning here, even though no material has been exchanged, or it's even material. And white is still up. 1.4, you could think of it as a pawn and a half. It's a little bit different. 3 points is usually equivalent to about a piece, like a knight or a bishop. But it's, a little bit more complicated than that. It has to do with likelihood of winning in a sort of sense. So this is an amazing move. So Gukesh definitely didn't realize that Ding can just go like that. And now white is in a great position. The trade just works out to white's favor. You have this long bishop now. The knight and the bishop are both, squaring up on that square. Meanwhile, if black, I guess you would think, like, why can't black do this, attacking the queen or something? But probably there's just a safe square for the queen? No? Or would you just go like, how do you... Queen c3, yeah, exactly. And then the queen's just great. And then if you want to take, that's going to fall because you can't... It's not like you can... Oh, okay. Wait, why doesn't this work? Knight a7. Bishop takes c7? Wait, sorry, what's... Oh, yeah, because you've been threatening that this whole time. Right, there's a lot to keep track of, y'all. Anyways, they think about so many different situations. This is what actually happened. White pushed, and then white just kept pushing. And just look at this. So again, it's even material. But white is technically up more than a full piece, even though it's even material, because white is dominating space. Rook has to move. And then check this situation out. Pawn, just retreat. Just get a pawn. Just gobble a pawn for free. Force a trade. Taking back with the pawns is interesting, but he could have taken with the rook, but this forces the knight to move immediately, meaning the queen can just gobble that up. So that's kind of good. Getting another pawn. And so white's just up enormously. And so even though white's only taken 2 pawns, it's up +5. So that's just... And then he just dominates the win in such a cool way. Gets the queen to a safe spot, puts the bishop ready, and then Gukesh thought that was going to buy himself time or something, but Ding finds the very classy win, sacking the rook, because if the king, it's take with check, so if the king, if the king goes over there, the rook falls, if the king goes over there, the queen goes checkmate, and if the king takes, then go here, and then when the king takes, that's certainly going to be white winning. So great game, Ding. Sorry you lost the whole thing. But, good for you for doing a good job. Anyways, Ding. He's not around here. He's not in the podcast studio like the other people I talk about who totally are. Except one of them. One of them used to help me with the numbers. I remember. Edit this out, please. I don't even, come on, you will, right? This is an emotional moment for me. I mean, I'm very emotional right now. Quick update on, I'm supposed to say that I was lying about the amount of money I get paid for the podcast. I don't actually get paid thousands of dollars per episode. I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. It was basically just an impulse to lie. I will never do it again about that because you would know. So I'd have to somehow, I could probably make up something. I was lying last time, but this time I'm not. It's going to be a lot harder. Okay. Should I talk about the main section? We just have one. I'm sorry about all the main sections last time. I thought it would be fun. But, we just have one this time. Okay, main section this time, how Britain's oldest tree became sexually ambiguous. So, let's check it out. And if you can't immediately tell why this 5,000-year-old tree in Perthshire is sexually ambiguous, it's because, it's mostly male. It produces small spherical structures that release pollen, unlike the female yews, which produce. I know yew trees from RuneScape. I think we all do. They require level 60 wood cutting, so that's what I know about yew. I wish I knew more. But I guess also they produce pollen when they're male, when they're men. Sort of their version of toxic masculinity is just producing small spherical structures. No, that's probably their normal masculinity. And then if they're toxic, it's probably maybe they're not spherical or something. Maybe they're like oblong. Unlike the female yews, which produced the more familiar bright red berries. So this frickin' tree, this 5,000-year-old tree, started producing berries. But odd as it may seem, yews and many other conifers that have separate sexes have been observed to switch sex. Wow. Nature is a beautiful thing, And just, I just find this so interesting because it's so funny when people are like, I can't accept trans people for who they are because of biology. It's like you're literally the dumbest. Like you're making the dumbest argument possible because actually it's the opposite. Yeah. And you don't have to be medically, you don't have to transition medically. Obviously, I'm not trying to say that. But the evidence that biology does inherently have no fixed binary for sex implies that obviously gender, even if it was sex, but certainly if it's different, is not going to be fixed or binary. So, yeah. But, yeah. Regardless of how that manifests for any one particular person. So I just find that interesting. Yeah. So, okay, that's the main section. Let's, I guess right? Is that enough? People are like, you didn't do a long enough main section. It's like, I don't really know who died and made you the main section king. You know? Oh, okay. Wait, hold on. You know, I'm going to pull up, I think it's time we transition into the desk section. So the desks section is where I will go through a bunch of very different desks, very different segments, but not too different. There will only be two different options. We like to mix it up between the two, but we just have two. It's politics desk and art desk. So we talk about either politics or we talk about art. There's never any overlap. And today I think we'll probably have hopefully a good mix of them both. Right? Okay. So, we'll have, what, you're not responding to me. I'm like looking over to my producer and they're just not responding to me. It's like, okay. Looking for positive feedback here. Okay. This is kind of itchy. All right. So this is the desk section. Let's pull this up. We got, jump scare. So this was fun. Respected, very wealthy, seemingly very old, apparently duly elected leader of a district. Nancy Pelosi 4 days ago, and she is a very well-liked political operative. She has been around for a long time, not because of entrenched power in the United States or any problems in the functioning of the United States government, but solely out of merit. And she's very well liked.
This is my story on how I saw it, and then someone.
She's promoting a book that people begged her to write because she's so well liked.
For current things. But there was so many other things I wanted to write about, the greatness of my members, their courage and the rest of that. And that remains for another book and some other issues. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So
she just waves them off. So you will there. It's interesting. You hear protesters and then you hear people booing the protesters. So it's kind of confusing a little bit to understand the target of each noise.
So you.
Don't worry about that. I'm from San Francisco. I'm used to this.
What is that supposed to mean? You know what I mean? Like, people are crazy. Like, isn't that like a right-wing talking point? Like, to just like highlight doesn't it, like, what exactly is she trying to evoke when she says that? Like, I mean, she's playing dumb. Like, what? Why would people be protesting me? Like, she's done a horrible job. I mean, my favorite Nancy Pelosi thing is how she said we need a strong, robust Republican Party. Right? Nancy Pelosi, strong Republican Party. Because that is the absolute most wild thing to say, yeah. Yeah, I mean, she said it in February 2023. We need a strong Republican Party. That's just an odd thing to say because really you're supposed to want the opposite. You're trying to, you're supposed to want to try to win. Like, okay.
We have an opportunity for the audience to ask questions, so we'll wait till the end of our conversation.
I don't think that works,
They'll
though.
get what they want because all the press will say is that we got interrupted.
All right.
Okay.
So, all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably an extremely valid protest against, like, one of the war crimes she's assented to, or, I mean, just the overall, like, way she's not been a ally of the working class. I mean, Like, she just is known for being a completely disoriented, selfish politician. So it's just fun to watch people get protested.
So, you never know what to expect at the 92nd Street Y.
I don't really understand what's going on editorially.
I'll wait.
I mean, she's just like, we need like young, smart people who believe that a better world is possible, in our government. That would be really good. One day. Next desk. So that was one politics desk. Next desk is, what is it going to be? Hopefully we're mixing it up. It is a politics desk. Okay. I was reading this book, the autobiography of Malcolm X, which is very interesting. I knew it would be interesting. I did not realize how interesting it would be. Because from every possible way you could imagine, like, what could make a book interesting, it's so well told. I mean, it's like, I didn't realize this till like halfway through, but it's based on like interviews that he had with a writer, Alex Haley, I think, or something. Yeah. That's just, Alex Haley. And, it's just, but his life is so fascinating. Like, cause he went to jail for like 8 years, before which he was just like living, the kind of the craziest life of actually, just being involved in the underground world of like, of Harlem and Roxbury, and being like, and then getting involved in all kinds of shenanigans, which led him to get arrested and be in jail for 8 years for like, I guess an armed robbery. But he made the point that him and his partner were affiliating with white women, and that he thought the court was probably giving them a way harsher sentence because they were caught doing a scheme affiliated with white women. I mean, basically their scheme was actually what Gene does on Better Call Saul at the end, except they weren't drugging people. They were just breaking into their houses and but doing it in a really anyways, that's not the point. So he goes to prison, and he learns about the Nation of Islam through his family members, which the Nation of Islam, I had never really understood what it was. I still don't have, a full understanding, but I just know from this book. And he ends up becoming a head minister in the Nation of Islam. He just like studies and communicates with the guy who runs the Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad. And while he's in prison, he's writing to Elijah Muhammad, who also had just gotten out of prison for just a different thing, and had like run the Nation of Islam. And then the Nation of Islam like took off, and it was interesting because it's Islam but a different sort of version, and an adapted version to the U.S. This is ridiculous to compare religions, but it sort of reminded me of like Hare Krishna compared to Hinduism is like Nation of Islam compared to Islam. But I don't know, maybe that's not a great accurate. Anyways, but then like the end of the story, I'm just like fast forwarding, is like he leaves the Nation of Islam. He or gets kicked out and then leaves, but he like gets kicked out on a pretext. Like it seems like it's just like they broke up. I mean, I don't know how to exactly describe who caused what, but like he leaves the Nation of Islam and goes about starting his own organization. After trips abroad and meeting with all these different leaders throughout Asia and Africa and the Middle East, he goes to Mecca, and he like becomes a Muslim rather than a Nation of Islam Muslim. Like it's sort of a difference. There are genuine differences, and so another interesting detail is he kind of gets like. He kind of goes. So if you know just a little about Malcolm X, and you probably have like a superficial understanding, like I certainly did. They didn't teach as much in school about him, but like you sort of think of him as like the one who like was okay with violence, and MLK Jr. was like not okay with violence, but Malcolm X was. Like that's sort of the binary that you learn. That's like not. like not even remotely close to the point. I mean, like, I get that this is his autobiography and it's told exactly how he wants and stuff. So, like, I haven't read secondary material. I'm not trying to freaking say I'm the Malcolm X. It would have been good to nail that the first time around. I'm not trying to say I'm the Malcolm expert, but at all. I just read this one book. So, but the thing is, like, he was also criticized in his time for, instead of that, he was criticized from his own side of people who are like for protesting for civil rights. Some people said that Nation of Islam and Malcolm X weren't doing enough, that they were just talking. And Malcolm X were like, well, we don't want to just march. Like, marching is a waste of time. Like, by his own admission, like, that's what his position was. Reading his descriptions of the marches is really funny. He's just the best freaking writer. And, like, the writer who helped him was good, but, like, he, you know, it's his voice and it's all told in the first person. And it's, like, so well told. It's, like, I mean, it's, like, there were parts, like, I laughed out loud. There were, at one point, regarding getting married, the part that made me laugh out loud, like, the way he describes meeting his wife, who's in the Nation of Islam, is like basically he just like did not pay attention to women at all, and like probably had some. He seems to have had some negative views about women. Oh, sorry, my point about going to Mecca was that he sort of like he ended up becoming basically going from. Okay, the point I was trying to make was that he ended up going from white people are the devil to like, okay, you know, he basically like what we'd like now think of as like you know, anti-racism, where you're like, okay, it's not white people that are inherently the problem, but it's these systems that perpetuate racism. And he basically he like came to that understanding by his own writing from meeting people in like around Mecca on his pilgrimage to Mecca, which every Muslim is like, that's part of being a Muslim, is you try to go once in your life if you can to Mecca and to this holy site. And when he does that, he meets people who are like, by his view, he's like, they would pass as white in the US, but they're treating me so nice. And he just realizes how different the dynamic can be and how basically socially constructed race is. And I'm going on this longer than I meant to, but that's fascinating to me, and part of why I think so. He was assassinated. I don't know. I'm not going to speak about it right now because I'm actually not sure of all the details. But from this book, I understand like 3 or so people shot him like at one of his speeches, and it was obviously an assassination. I don't know the narrative. My understanding is like it's assumed it's Nation of Islam members, and he was knowingly being targeted by he was like, I'm being targeted by Nation of Islam members. Towards the end of his life, according to this book, he says, actually, I don't think they're capable of all the stuff that I think is going on right now, because he was just witnessing sort of how he was being targeted and how he was being followed. And he was like, I don't really think the Nation of Islam would be doing all this stuff. And he was pretty well aware of what they would do because he spent like years leading their organization. But anyways, it's fascinating to read because the Nation of Islam is an organization that is it engaged in or engages in exiling of the members. I don't know what their current policies are, but they used to like exile members, like some churches do. And I think that's not a good thing to do, and it's bad. So I think that's one of the policies, and like the way that people sometimes, So anyways, I think my point in all this is that Malcolm X was in the process of starting his own organizations, which he had already done. And figuring out how he wanted. He was 39 years old. I mean, he was so young, and and there's a lot of evidence to say that it wasn't so simple as Nation of Islam members shooting him. And so I'm going to look into that more and try to learn about it. I think there's an active court case his family is bringing about something related to the evidence being withheld. I mentioned that on a previous episode. But anyways, really good book. I really strongly recommend it. Very fast to read about him leaving the Nation of Islam, and you don't see it coming at all. Like, I didn't know that. So I didn't realize exactly how it played out. I really didn't. I feel stupid, but okay. Anyways, hopefully we have an art desk because it's been 2 politics in a row. Okay. Next desk is about it's a politics desk, and it's revisiting the United Health CEO's. I'm going to censor myself because guess what? I think my post about it was censored. 21 upvotes on a post, a community post. Thank you very much. I do better than that. So I think mentioning these terms, the UHCEO, I think that triggered the system because, and it's crazy because on other times I've like really, you know, said things in my like in the very previous, I talked about a lot of serious things, assassination, you know, I talked about all types of serious things, you know, lethal force. And that got 258 like votes. And then I post about this UHCEO killing and 21. So that's just, I'm getting throttled. I just wanted to say that. First off, I'm getting throttled, most importantly, about this issue. So for this politics desk, we have it's actually partially an integration with horizontal integration desk. So it's an integration with the horizontal integration desk, which is obviously the horizontal integration desk is when I integrate with, and it's not a desk anymore. It's more of a segment. Desks are specific types of segments. But the horizontal integration is where I talk about my YouTube channel and the podcast, and it gets a lot of nice interconnection going. My fashion person was like, your hat's not puffy enough. I'm like, okay. So anyways, should probably keep more serious when I'm talking about this subject. So I asked the audience, I said, what are your questions regarding this incident? Because I was like, I want to talk about it more because I only gave my sort of first take on it on the previous episode. I was like, what do people want to say? You know what I mean? Like, why should I just talk if I don't even know what people want me to say? So let's look and see what people said. I don't know why it hides comments, you know what I mean? But let's go to the top comment first. Robot Eva, who's a member. Look at that, member for 10 months. Woof, that's some cred. So, okay. Let's talk about this because this is a big deal. Someone got shot in the street in New York, and he was a CEO, and he was killed. And then the guy almost got away who did it. Obviously, you already know all this, but, he almost got away, but he didn't. And it was kind of crazy because like people were like, whoa, he got away for like a week. It was like kind of crazy that he got away for a week. So those were desk noises, by the way. I'm allowed to hit the desk and make desk noises during the desk section. So yeah. Anyway, starting with the bottom question. So how does this real killing relate to your previous discussions on violence and the positive and negative results of resorting to it to solve your problems in life, like in the Better Call Saul and so on? I think many people are rather rightly celebrating what happened, and I can't help but reflect on if this says anything about the use of violence as a conflict resolution tool and the morals associated with it. Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, as I said in my video on my main channel, like, I don't think violence is the answer. I think it's very risky. That being said, I mean, it can't be denied that, like, I mean, if you're like, for instance, like what I would want to ask someone is like, do you think the American Revolution, just looking at that, we could talk about the French Revolution or any revolution I'm aware of, not any revolution. Sorry. There are revolutions I'd probably be like, no, I don't think that was good. But they're not like, those are like different. I guess those are more like coups, but anyways, I mean, most people would agree the American Revolution it's better that happened than it just didn't. We could all probably say how it might have been improved. For instance, giving, full citizenship to everyone, not just white landowning men or whatever, right? Or voting rights, or I don't know. Well, it was pretty unequal is my point. So you could tweak that, but realistically, I would say the American Revolution, it's better that it happened than it not happening, right? And I think, wouldn't most people agree about that? So that being said, you literally can't do that without violence. And like, I just think doing solo violence, like it does not help doing stuff like that. And I made my video before that incident, right? I mean, I was just talking in general, and then that happened, right? But that's not. It's like if you have to fight a tyrannical government, then maybe I could see, like, I could understand, you can see how that's useful. I just think doing something like this, like, what's the net benefit? I don't know. It's kind of like, honestly. So when I talk about it, I mean, it's hard to, I don't want to celebrate it. And I understand why people do that, because it's like people suffer so much with the health insurance companies. Like, everyone knows someone or has suffered because of issues with health insurance coverage in the US. And it's ridiculous and so avoidable. And we see all these other countries with better systems, and it's really, really painful to know that these companies really don't need to exist. It's proven that we have government healthcare with Medicare, and it works, and it's good, and Medicaid often. And it's just like all about how it's funded, and it works just as efficiently and more efficiently than private companies. It literally does. So it's like very frustrating to look at other countries and see, and and then to have multiple thousands of dollars deductible, hundreds of dollars premiums. It's a ridiculous system. And then copays too. It is, you are literally being scammed to stay alive, and it hurts. And but but if you have any sort of platform, you can't really celebrate it. I mean, you can do it as some random person, I guess, but it's like, if you have any sort of platform, you can't just celebrate stuff like that. But I do understand not being able to, I wasn't like, oh, I hope they find him. I'm so worried of who he's going to harm next. You know what I mean? I'm like, I want to live in a world where people are not, despairing about whether they're going to get coverage for health issues. And I would readily pay more in taxes to not have to worry about that. And it's, so anyways, so I think what this says is that a lot of people think that stochastic violence could serve a purpose, and or the stochastic violence, it doesn't represent that to them. It represents something more. They see it as, like a win and a strike back against the oppressing group. But it's just, I don't think that's how this stuff works. I think you should, if you're someone like this guy or, Luigi or whoever, you should try to just find productive ways to contribute with your life and not just get locked up forever for killing a guy. There's a lot of CEOs, but they just find another. They just grow on trees too, so you can't. This is a very long comment, so I will zoom in on the question. Thank you though for the comment. Why can companies like Boeing and their CEOs sign off on assassinations of whistleblowers and have absolutely nothing happen to them? But this happens, and suddenly we spend millions to catch one guy. That's fascinating. I want to look up that incident or incidents. We spend millions to catch one guy. I think you know the answer to that. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you know the answer to that, and I'm sorry for your own experience. Actually, now that I look at the rest of this comment, it's so painful. Yeah. It's these companies. We did talk on a previous podcast. It was like 2 episodes ago about, I think it was Exxon hacking environmentalists' emails and then releasing them to try to influence legal cases that they were involved in, or maybe allegedly. I should throw on there. I don't know who's going to sue the VJP. Because like the law exists to protect companies, and that's something we could change if we just get money out of politics. I think to some extent it's possible, right? We'd have to fundamentally change things. Hey, glad you're covering a complex topic. Also, have enjoyed your Better Call Saul videos. My question is, do you think the common consent, for lack of a better word, on social media that the murder was justified is potentially a harmful mindset for society and the future generation? I feel like there is a lack of empathy to some degree, and once you start applying the ideology whether or not a person deserves to live, that can lead to a very dangerous path for sure. Do you think social media will influence people to carry out what they believe to be? I do think so. We've had this for years now, where social media and YouTube and other stuff has influenced terrorist actions. And I think it's fair to say this is an act of terrorism, right? To some extent, it's political violence. It's scary. I'm not worried about people's reactions to it. I see people being maybe a little irresponsible. I don't look at a lot of reactions, so I'm sure people say crazy shit, but like, I'm not worried too much about people's reactions because I think people have so much pent up anger, they just will release it at something like this. I don't think that means most people want to carry out an action like this, but I think it is inevitable that, like, you know, there will be more actions carried out like this, and like people are influenced by things they see in media and stuff. But the problem is, like, people are more influenced by their health situation, you know, than they are by probably even what they see on social media. But it's hard. Like, obviously, you know, not all terrorism is created equal, and like January 6th protesters, like, not terrorists necessarily, but like they were like, it's not terrorists. They were doing they were trying to do a little change of the government. They were trying to, you know, like, put the thumb on the scale of the government. I mean, if that was to prevent a president from illegally keeping his tenure rather than to keep a president to illegally keep his tenure, it would be a different story, right? Like, if Trump had, like, seized power and they were, like, protesting to try to get him out rather than protesting to help him seize power, that would be different. Now, that's not terrorism. I'm just saying, I think the same logic applies. Like, when you look at political violence, there are certainly different, it's not gradations of how right or wrong it is necessarily, but it's like how you judge the justification of the action based on the righteousness of its cause and the necessity of it. And I mean, I don't think this type of thing is justified. I mean, it's not necessary. It's not a net benefit. And I just don't think it's, like, it's one thing, again, if you're, like, fighting a tyrannical government. I just don't think something like this is stochastic terrorism. I mean, I assume he's hoping to, you know, influence political discussion, but, like, I don't think this helps in our current world. You know, I don't think this is good. Any new things I'll make a video essays about? I should mention I'm working on a video. It's about a company. It's about a funny little company, and it might be like 4 hours long. It might be really long. It might be longer than my Breaking Bad video. So I'm gonna see if I can trim that down. But I've been working on it. I'd say it might be out in a couple months. I'm wondering if you think it's ethical to use violence to extinguish forces who heavily oppress others. I find myself going back and forth. I don't want to live in a world where people just assassinate those who see as bad. And a lot of very thoughtful questions. Thank you all. And I certainly don't want to live in a world where it's necessary. However, I can't help but Luigi's pursues. No, the healthcare system is murder for me. Is there a point where violence is actually the only solution? Yeah, I mean, like I'm saying, I just don't think this situation is like it's the only solution. But I think that's a good way to frame the question, because I think it makes it more clear. Like, it's just not the only solution, and like that. Yeah, I mean, it's one thing if you absolutely. I think, right? Like Gandhi said that, even, like, if we need to. No, wait, who am I? Did he not say that? Who did he? I feel like. Oh no, I'm thinking no. Gandhi was like a no violence ever guy, right? He never was cool with violence. Okay. Well, a lot of people are. You know, you have like Castro, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess obviously, I think Nelson Mandela was like, oh yeah, sometimes it's fine. I mean, he had a militant wing of the group, the tip of the spear. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, I mean, the people obviously have different. It's hard to look at history of like revolutions and be like, they were a little violent. I mean, it's really tough. Like, you know, but what amount of violence is justified? Like, you know, I want to read more about the Russian Revolution, the October Revolution, which was in November, by the way. The fake news media calls it the October Revolution. Look up the date. That shit was in November. By my calendar, which is all that matters. So anyways, obviously the healthcare system does kill way more people, you know, tens of thousands of people a year, many people, so many people, more than that probably, because a lot of people don't get help they need because of their worries about things. So that might not even show up in data, really, in all the data. So, okay. So, yeah. So that's my position. Thank you for the nice questions. I think you should all find ways to organize and contribute your life more meaningfully, we can find, not that anyone watching this is thinking about doing something like that, but, just find ways to, make things better. Okay, next up we have another politics desk for some reason. Topless women protesting the Ukraine war are detained for vandalizing sculpture near U.S. buildings. This is kind of dope. So 2 people took off some of their clothes and they carved with like chainsaws into this sculpture near the UN building just the other day to protest the Russian war and what they see as the UN's failure to stop the conflict, which, I mean, it's crazy that the U.S. has not. I mean, obviously, just like Israel could stop their wars if they wanted to, and they are not defending themselves anymore at all. If they, maybe they were at certain times, sure, very briefly. Similarly, the, Ukraine, the U.S. could stop. I bet the U.S. could, it seems like we're like profiting way too much from the Ukraine war. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, Russia is like the main culprit there, and they could really stop at any time. That's even a better point to make, probably. But I am just, as a U.S. citizen, I'm like, it's crazy how you think we could put some influence in and say, hey, let's end this. Yeah. Without huge, I'm not talking about giving huge allowances to Russia. I'm feeling like no one wants to end the war. Well, we'll see what Trump says. He obviously says he wants to. That'll be interesting to see what he does, but a lot of other things won't be interesting. They used a chainsaw to cut into the wooden sculpture known as the Broken Chair. One woman with white flour left several large gashes in the sculpture. The artwork symbolizes the dismemberment. Whoa. This is the first time there's ever been crossover between the art and the politics. Wow. Huh. I guess politics and art can overlap. It's kind of nice, honestly. I thought I would be annoyed, but it's kind of nice. The artwork symbolizes the dismemberment caused by landmines and is a call to ban the devastating weapons which have also been used in the war in Ukraine. So I guess they're not against that. They just are using that for the attention for the protest. They had words including "Stop Mines" and "F Russia" painted on their bare chests and backs in near freezing temperatures and shouted expletives repeatedly against the United Nations and Russia. They declined to speak to reporters afterwards. That's the best part. That is a good idea. You got to speak to reporters sometimes, but not all the time. Okay, next up we have it's politics again. Okay. Just Stop Oil activist 77, that's an interesting name for someone, faces jail recall as risks too small for electronic tags. I didn't even know what to say to this. This is like, I mean, it's hard. I can't find it funny because it's so sad that Just Stop Oil activists are facing jail. And to go to jail because your risks are too small for an electronic tag. I mean, I hope there's a follow-up that I'm not aware of where the 77-year-old activist is not going to have to go to prison because their wrists are too small. Are you kidding me? That's actually pissing me off. Okay, next up we have a politics desk. FBI did not send undercover operatives to join January 6th attack, Watchdog says. This is reported by Reuters. False claims of FBI role in January 6th attack debunked in new Watchdog report. So Reuters is not some left-wing rag. And this is interesting because people say, I didn't buy it at all. We were just talking about January 6th. Well, I didn't buy it at all. Oh, it's an FBI conspiracy. Yeah, give me a break. There's no evidence of that. Have you heard of Occam? He has a really nice razor you should check out to cut that extremely hairy rationale you have with the extremely likely explanation that these are people who have just believed the things that they've been told by powerful people. The U.S. Justice Department watchdog report released on Thursday debunked claims by far-right conspiracy theorists who falsely allege that FBI operatives were secretly involved in the January 6th attack. The report concluded there's no evidence to suggest undercover FBI agents participated in the attack on the Capitol. So that's, yeah. The FBI did not authorize any of its informants to enter the building or engage in violence. One such false claim, this person was charged with a misdemeanor for entering a restricted building and then was accused of being by one of the mainstream media's biggest personalities before being fired and just being on different big media, of being an undercover government informant. So just saying that about someone. Wow. That's interesting. Yeah. If it makes your side look better, I guess. We wouldn't get arrested. I only like the ones that don't get arrested. It's crazy that people voted for that guy. The guy who was like, I like the prisoner of war. I don't respect prisoners of war. Didn't he say that? Like, that's crazy that people voted for that guy. Prisoners of war Trump quote. I mean, that just he attacked me 2015 July. I like people who weren't captured. Yeah. That's crazy, man. I mean, that's funny and shit, but like, that's crazy, dude. People just voted for that. And all the other things, People just voted for that. They didn't care. Like, that's how bad the Democrats have been from people's opinion. And like, I'll say the Democrats are marginally better for the average person for sure. I would definitely say. That's why I would say vote for them when you're given the option. But wow, man, they don't present a very compelling case. They do not present a very compelling case. Because can you imagine saying, I respect the soldiers who don't get captured just to attack a political opponent who's a POW? Like, that's the world. That's so wild. And I don't, I'm not like respecting the military a lot, but like, I respect the POW. I mean, someone's working a job, compelled to work a job and they have to become a prisoner. That's not on the that probably is on the contract you sign, actually. Anyways, I just had to take a diversion there to be like, wow, people really voted for that guy, who was like, I like the soldiers who don't get captured. That's wild. Do you think he thought of that beforehand, or like that just came out of him? That's like what a teenager would say. But the report did find that the FBI could have done more ahead of the January 6th attack by canvassing its field offices for intelligence from informants to prepare for what was to come. Yeah, I believe that. I believe that they're incompetent. I just don't think they caused... Even if they had 2 or 3 agents there, I would not believe that they were a causal role in it. Hold on. Wait. 3 of them were tasked with reporting on domestic terrorism case subjects. One of those 3 entered the Capitol that day, while 2 others entered a restricted area around the Capitol. The other 23 informants who were in Washington to attend protests did so on their own initiative and were not asked by the Bureau to attend the events. Huh. Okay. So they might have been who knows? They might have been involved in some way. I just would not believe that they had some causal role. Several of the informants cited in the report on Thursday were tasked with providing the FBI with information related to far-right groups, including the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. Oh, really? Yeah? Is the FBI trying to recruit? Leaders for the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys were later prosecuted for their involvement in the Capitol attack, with juries convicting Oath Keepers founder and Proud Boys chairman on seditious conspiracy and other crimes. And by the way, it's like, it's one thing to get arrested for that when you're like trying to help the average person. It's another when you're doing it with an ideology that does not benefit the average person. In its response to the report, the FBI said it will accept the watchdog's recommendations for how to improve its processes. Okay. Happy ending. Thanks for the happy ending, FBI. Next up, we have a politics desk. This is really a lot of politics desks. No? Okay. This is a follow-up, though. We did talk about this crypto venture. It partners with platform linked to Middle East militants. I'm trying to not do that melody. I didn't do it for any of the others. Why did I do it for... Okay, anyways. Okay, I feel like, why are people not allowed to button the second button? Okay. Oh, it's a power move. You don't button either button. That's why they voted for him. A crypto venture recently unveiled. So if you're interested in cryptocurrency, boy, do I have the thing for you. World Liberty Financial Inc., which is not out of a movie. Reuters, come on. What is the friggin'? A crypto venture unveiled by Donald Trump and his new Middle East envoy, billionaire, one of the very many billionaires involved in the administration, which is good because that is oligarchy, which is a very functional and good government that helps the average person. Billionaire Steve Witkoff has partnered with a crypto platform that authorities and financial experts say has been used by criminals and Iran-backed militants, militant groups Hamas and Hezbollah. I don't pronounce anything right. World Liberty Financial Inc., founded by the Witkoff family 2 months before November's U.S. election, with Trump as a financial beneficiary. He's running for election and becomes a financial beneficiary of a cryptocurrency. Presents concerns over ethics and conflicts of interest. How? Say 6 specialists in U.S. government ethics. Yeah, well, why didn't you ask 7 or 8? Because you were afraid they were going to disagree with those 6. Am I right? Among their biggest concerns is the new partner Tron crypto platform. Quicker and cheaper than Bitcoin, the Tron network has overtaken its rival as a vehicle for crypto transfers associated with groups designated as terror organizations by Israel, the United States, and other countries. So I wouldn't always trust, these designations, but it's just interesting because he's like president now, right? Or gonna be. Reuters reported citing interviews with 7 financial crime experts and cryptocurrency investigation specialists. Tron invested $30 million in World Liberty. Its founder will join the Trump-Witkoff venture as an advisor. And crypto seizures announced by the Israeli Security Service have recently singled out Tron's use by militants. Okay. That's interesting that this app used by militants of a war that the U.S. is funding. So you would think the U.S. doesn't like these militants. Still, that app is owned by someone who will then partner with the leader of that country that is supplying the arms to fight the militants who also use that app. Well, it's a corporation, right? So they don't even have much to do with it. And it can't help if militant groups use its app. I mean, it's right. It did not specifically respond to claims it has been used by militants. The company has taken proactive measures. A collaboration with law enforcement launched in September froze $70 million in illicit funds, the spokesperson said. Okay. The U.S. Treasury Department has also seized Tron wallets, including an account linked to a group that the department said raised money for Hamas. Okay, I mean, I'm not. It's not. Yeah, it's. Yeah, I guess it's just interesting that they team up. I guess it just shows the power of friendship and the power of business connection. That even if your app is being used by people that the U.S. purportedly is fighting against, the incoming president will still partner with you on that crypto venture. Got to spend money to make money. No, I don't think that's the right. Okay, politics desk. Syria. Syrian rebels took Damascus. President Assad's rule ended. People celebrated in the streets. The central bank was looted. Assad's palace was overrun. His plane went missing. The immigration building burned. An Islamist group led the rebels. World leaders contacted the new power. The war caused significant casualties and displacement. I'm gonna move on. I just want to say, it's at the end of the day, there should not be dictatorships. There should not be dictatorships. There should be a limit on how long you can be in power, Okay, yeah, so I just wanted to, that's just what I wanted to say. I don't pretend to know everything. I just think at the end of the day, change is good when it's what people generally want in the place. And that does seem to be the case. I try to rhyme when I can. Next up, we have a politics desk. 2024 will be the hottest year on record, EU scientists say. So if you listen to scientists for this type of stuff, this will be the world's warmest year since records began, with extraordinarily high temperatures expected to persist into at least the first few months of 2025. Remember when I used to talk about this stuff and I would call it the climate desk? That was so weird, you know what I mean? It's just politics. I like to boil things down. And we're about to be boiled down on this planet if we don't elect leaders who take science seriously. Comes 2 weeks after UN climate talks yielded only a third of what was asked for, insufficient to cover the soaring cost of climate-related disasters. Rich countries don't want to fork up the money, they just want to keep the money. 2024 is now certain to be the hottest year on record, and the first in which average global temperatures exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius above the 1850 to 1900 pre-industrial period. So that's not good. We didn't want to do that. We are now exceeding 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit above the average. Right, it's the average above the 1850 to 1900 pre-industrial period. So that's not that good. That's really bad. 1.5 degrees Celsius in that amount of time is a lot. Previous hottest year on record was 2023. I remember that year. That was the direct year before. Extreme weather has swept around the world in 2024 with severe drought hitting Italy and South America, fatal floods in Nepal, Sudan, and Europe, heat waves in Mexico, Mali, and Saudi Arabia that killed thousands, and disastrous cyclones in the U.S. and the Philippines. Scientific studies have confirmed the fingerprints of human-caused climate change on all of these disasters, if you believe scientific studies. Last month ranked as the second warmest November, and this is Reuters, by the way. Last month ranked as second warmest November on record after November of last year. Carbon dioxide emissions from burning fossil fuels are the main cause of climate change. Cutting emissions to net zero, as many governments have pledged to eventually do, will stop global warming from getting worse. Yet, despite these green pledges, global CO2 emissions are set to hit a record high this year. Scientists are also monitoring whether the La Nina weather pattern, which involves the cooling of ocean surface temperatures, could form in 2025. Someone should ask Dan Henschel if the marine layer is going to be a part of this at all also. That could briefly cool global temperatures, though it would not halt the long-term underlying trend of warming caused by emissions. The world is currently in neutral conditions after El Nino. La Nina's hotter counterpart ended earlier this year. While 2025 might be slightly cooler than 2024, if a La Nina event develops, this does not mean temperatures will be safe or normal. We will still experience high temperatures resulting in dangerous heat waves, droughts, wildfires, and tropical cyclones. These records go back to 1940 and are all cross-checked with global temperature records going back to 1850. So the world is getting a lot hotter, and we need to take that very seriously and understand it's not debated. You know, this is Reuters. So next up, we have a politics desk. So I didn't personally know this, that Joe Biden ran for president in 1988, and it didn't go well. It actually ended up where he got, oh my God, dude. Just think about how much evil that guy has done. You know what I mean? He was initially considered one of the potentially strongest candidates, but didn't do a great job. And then actually there was a problem because he was reported to have plagiarized a speech by the leader of the British Labour Party. So this speech was given just a few months earlier to the Welsh Labour Party. So from the British Labour Party to the Welsh Labour Party. And then it was rebroadcast during the UK 1987 elections. And Biden just rephrased everything and plagiarized a lot of it, duplicated parts of it, just like. And you know what I found most interesting about this? Well, it came out and he was messed up because of it. And then it was found that he had even potentially when he was in graduate school. He was at law school. He got an F, and then because he had only cited an article and then used it like the whole time, which is plagiarism. So you would think he would know what plagiarism is. That makes it seem very intentional, right? He thought he could get away with it. What I wanted to say the most about this is like, now there's a lot of issues with the Labor Party, as we're seeing. I need to learn a little bit more about it, but I know that it's not going great for them to be in power. But they are like, you know, they're to the left of the other major parties, right? I mean, so they're not. I'm just saying it's interesting that like they're definitely to the left of the Democrats, right? I think so. They're to the left of the U.S. Democrats. So unless I'm wrong about that, and I'm sorry if I just think it's interesting. You see that like he's plagiarizing it's like he's trying to get cred, and it's all about this point about advancement of society and stuff. It's just interesting to like plagiarize the left. It's like you get your credibility from the left. I don't know. It's just interesting. Okay. Next up, we have a politics desk. New Zealand plans to ban greyhound racing, citing high injury rates. Are there going to be no art desks? Because that will actually be a problem. I'll be here all night if that's what it takes to get an art desk. So New Zealand is banning greyhound racing. So people who like greyhound racing get a life. You know what I mean? It'll be wound down over a 20-month period. And they are going to free the greyhounds in the wild, in the forest, and let them run free, I'm assuming. I'm not reading that anywhere. New homes. They're going to find new homes. I'm sorry. That's what they're going to do for 2,900 racing dogs. Can you imagine having that dog? You're like, go get me, I don't know. Dogs don't do stuff like that, but they would be very quick is my point. Greyhound Racing New Zealand chairman said the decision was a devastating blow. Wow, that's, you had invested in reform. Well, sometimes it's just not a good idea, right? We are extremely disappointed that the government has not recognized the work of the industry to address areas of concern. It's over 1,000 full-time jobs. Aww. Obviously, we could do stuff like that. That would be really good, It's just, you don't need to make dogs do that, Maybe horse racing, too, should just be banned forever. Okay, next up, politics desk. Names to be added to controversial victims of communism memorial next year. So this, I really like this. So Ottawa, Canada unveiled a victims of communism memorial with no names on it. Dozens of people gathered for the opening. But the federal government official who was supposed to inaugurate it did not show up. The unveiling was put on hold last year because of the controversy over parliamentarians honoring a Ukrainian Nazi soldier and potential links between the monument and Nazi collaborators. So that's not what you want in your Victims of Communism Memorial. How did Nazis get involved in the Victims of Communism Memorial? Who knows? First they came for the... In addition, Jewish groups have voiced their ongoing concerns about the names of alleged Nazi collaborators. Wow, Jewish people, right? Come on, as a Jewish person, can we just relax? What, they're not allowed to have Nazi collaborators? What is this, cancel culture? And other fascists being inscribed on the memorial's wall of remembrance? Wait, I thought it was a victims of communism. Oh, right, because they're, yeah. They're going to remember the victims. Sorry, I don't know why that didn't process in my head. Right. So it's just so funny. So names will be added starting next year. So there are no names. They unveiled the Victims of Communism Memorial and no one's on it. So congratulations, communism, on your no victims. I think totalitarian governments that have been communist have, victimized people, but I don't know whether that's communism's fault. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe there's a way that you could blame probably communism a little bit, because I'm okay with blaming capitalism a lot for things like, for instance, private healthcare killing tens of thousands of people a year. So I could see, a legitimate argument on certain subjects. But anyways, next up, Politics Desk. I just wanted to show this, briefly. You may have heard about this. Palestinian poet was killed in Israeli strike. This was last year, I believe. Right? I believe. I'm sorry. I should have known this off the top of my head. Yeah, this was last year. So on the memorial of it, I just wanted to mention it. Dr. Rafat Al-Arir, and he was a poet and writer and literature professor and activist, killed by Israeli bombs. He just one of many, many people, obviously tens of thousands of people just since October 7th, that Palestinian people that the U.S. has funded Israel massacring and genociding, and it's disgusting that this is tolerated and that we live in this day and age and this is tolerated. He was also one of the founders of We Are Not Numbers, a nonprofit organization founded in Gaza following the 2014 Israeli attack, and devoted himself to establishing a new generation of Palestinian writers and thinkers Palestine will be free one day. It will. This is unbelievable that the victims of a Holocaust who said never again ended up really just talking about themselves. And I say that as a Jewish person, this is disgusting that Israel tries to use Judaism as a shield to act out its, its worst, most imperialistic base desires. What's also interesting is that Barry Weiss, a very disrespected political commentator, had feuded with this guy on Twitter, and he tweeted just days before he was killed by an Israeli airstrike, "If I get killed by Israeli bombs or my family is harmed, I blame Barry Weiss and her likes." And then he was killed days later by an Israeli airstrike. Barry Weiss, as a political commentator, is, if not an avowed Zionist, which I'm sure she is, certainly she promotes Zionism and gets into these types of feuds with Palestinians online. And we have an art desk. Wow, Notre Dame rises again. The stats behind the cathedral's remarkable restoration. I'm so excited to talk about art. You're kidding. No, I have it already pulled up. I could just talk about it really... No, I'll just talk about it really quickly. I already have it. But I've talked about politics the whole time, and I thought this was going to be like a mix, that we do politics or art. The whole point was that it was a mix of both, and they're different and distinct, and it's a mix. I mean, we had a little crossover today, and that's not my fault. But the whole point is that they're distinct, and this was all just one, and now we finally get an art desk. And you're telling me I'm just supposed to talk about the alliteration of the title? Remarkable restoration. That's not even that amazing. But yeah, it's a nice alliteration. That's all I'm allowed to say. I just want to read it briefly. All right. Yeah, no, it's fine. Okay, so thank you. That was good. That was the desk section. We will do the patron shout out. Or let's do the mailbag before the patron shout out, and then people can kind of, decide if they want to listen to the patron shout out. But the mailbag is always exciting. People write into verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com, and not this time, but they do generally. And so next time we will have lots of those. Now, let me thank some of the people who support this podcast and this channel, and this YouTube channel, while I work very slowly on videos. Let me tell you a little bit of something about them. They're very interesting people. They're unique, and you could be one of them if you have disposable income and want to give me money. You don't have to. It's not a big deal. You know what I'm saying? But you can if you want. And let me just pull up also the YouTube members. We got the members, we got the Patreons, and that's all in good fun. Okay, this was a good episode. Very long. I think this was a very long one. I'll start with the YouTube members. So we got our active members. We got all these active members. Thank you so much, Maddie. Thank you, Ibnomad. Thank you, Jasmine, Matthew, Simply Snaps, Eva, Sadie, Jifa, Jaden, Trusty Ghost, Hollow Moon, Pit Inhabitant, and 39% Weird. And on Patreon, thank you so much, Icelack, Helena, MT, Caleb, Emily, Miranda, Ruben, HP, Ibnomad on both, Oliver, MK, Matt, Scott, X, Noah, Anastasios, Linguist, Sam, King, Margot, Tom, Stephanie, Verbal Gerbil, Hugh, Donovan, Redgrove, Elemancy, Platinum Sarge, Rabid Dog 008, Jen, Ian, Russ, Irene, MJ, Gaff45er Swit, Ryan, Madeline, John, Mr. Moxie, Brent, Kyle, Ashley, Jack, Scott, Luca, Gunther, Thulusaurus Rex, Miles, and User. Thanks, y'all. Tip of the old cap to you. And thank you for watching and doing the old, canoodling with your audio and video here. And I'll see you at some point in the future. And we'll keep doing this. And I did pretty good with the chair, right? I think they let me sit the whole time. And I think I didn't, I made it good. I was more relaxed because of it. So, all right. Well, okay. Do I have to say goodbye? Okay. 1 sec. No. Goodbye.
This is a podcast or something like that.